These are the strictest prisons in the world. Black Dolphin is known as the worst prison in Russia. Inmates are taken here blindfolded. They're moved around bent over so they can never map out the prison and plan an escape. The prison is freezing cold and has no heating whatsoever. Inmates are kept behind 3 sets of bars, and they're only allowed outside their cells for 1 hour per day. Fuchu prison is found in Japan. Inmates are not allowed to speak even when they have visitors. They're also not allowed to look up. They must always look down. Inmates can't even sit how they like. There's a chart inside their cells telling them how to sit. They also must do 40 hours of manual labor every single week. Salt Pit is a secret prison in Afghanistan. Inmates say that sometimes they're not allowed to sleep for 17 days. They're also sometimes not given food by the guards. Prison food from around the world. In Italy, prisoners get fresh fruit and vegetables to eat. They also get meat, olive oil, and juices. And they even get wine every day with their evening meal. In Russia, prisoners are given what's known as chaff porridge. This is made from very low quality grains. They also add an ingredient called kombizir. This makes it a tasteless grey slop. In Haiti, prisoners only get 1 meal a day. This is normally a bowl of rice. North Korean prisoners often don't get any food. That's because the country is running low on food. This means inmates sometimes have to eat grass or even rats. Some North Korean prisoners even reported catching live worms and snakes to eat. Longest prison sentences ever. This is Pudit Kitharadilok from Thailand. In 2017, he was sentenced to 13,275 years. This was for a fraud where he stole $160 million. This is Alan Wayne McLaurin from the United States. He was sentenced to 20,750 years. This was for taking the life of an elderly woman. This is Othman El Ganawi from Spain. He was sentenced to 42,924 years. This was for the 2004 Madrid train bombings. This is Chamoy Payazo from Thailand. She was sentenced to 141,078 years. This was for a $204 million fraud. Here is what El Chapo's prison cell is really like. El Chapo is the leader of the Sinaloa cartel. He escaped from prison twice. But in 2016, he was finally taken to America's worst prison. That is ADX Florence. But what is El Chapo's prison cell really like? All over the prison, there are pressure pads to know where people walk. El Chapo's cell is made of only reinforced concrete and steel. There is a concrete bed and a small concrete stool. There's also a metal toilet and a metal shower. And the shower is on a timer. This is to make sure El Chapo can't drown himself behind bars. His cell is absolutely tiny. And it's also soundproof so he can't talk to anyone else in nearby cells. There will be no escaping for El Chapo this time. Since ADX Florence was opened in 1994, there have been 0 escapes. It's safe to say El Chapo will spend his final days behind bars. This man is so dangerous, no prison would accept him. Meet Charles Bronson. He is said to be the most dangerous prisoner in the world. He's been in prison for about 50 years. He first went to prison when he was only 22. This was because of an armed robbery. Inside prison, he had many fights. He was then transferred to a different prison, but in that prison he tried to break out, and also tried to poison a fellow inmate. He was then sent to a remote prison on the Isle of Wight. In the next prison, he took someone hostage and demanded a helicopter and a cup of tea. He was then put in solitary confinement where he took a guard hostage. He was then moved to a Hannibal cage where he took yet another guard hostage. He was moved to another prison where he took 3 people hostage, and then moved to another where he took 2 more people hostage. Right now he's in the maximum security Wood Hill prison where he may remain for the rest of his life. This man won $338 million overnight and ended up in jail. This is Pedro Quezada from New Jersey, USA. In 2013, he won a massive $338 million in the lottery. But soon after this, he was taken into custody. He allegedly harmed a girl. He was charged with 3 offenses. But according to his lawyer, this only happened because he was a millionaire. His lawyer said he has money and that's why he's being targeted. Some said maybe the money made this guy think he could do whatever he wants. But seeing as he's now been arrested, that's clearly not the case. Others say this guy's innocent, but that's for the courts to decide. These are the most dangerous prison inmates in the world. This is Jason Barnum from Alaska, USA. He was a known burglar, but that's when one day a cop tried to arrest him. Jason then tried to end the cop's life with a firearm. Thankfully, the cop lived and Jason was arrested, but he soon went viral for his scary tattooed eye. This is Joseph James D'Angelo, better known as the Golden State Killer. In the 1970s, he burgled 120 people and took 13 people's lives. He was only caught in 2018. This was after new DNA evidence proved Joseph was the Golden State Killer. This is Michael Campbell. He looked like this in 2003, but 10 years later, he looked like this. He was arrested for crawling into a woman's bed while she slept. I really can't think of anything scarier than that. Kids who were sentenced to life in prison. This is Zachary Neagle. At just 14, he was given a life sentence. That's because he ended his own father's life with a rifle. He did this because his father had been abusing him for many years. This is Christian Fernandez. When he was only 12, he was arrested for taking his brother's life. He did this by pushing his brother against a bookshelf. He was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and was taken to prison. This is Conrad Schaefer from Florida. When he was only 15 years old, he went on a shooting spree. This ended 2 people's lives. In 2016, he was sentenced to life in prison. Real prison escapes caught on camera. In 2016, a helicopter was hijacked. It was taken to a prison in Quebec, Canada. 2 prisoners then jumped onto a rope and were taken out of the prison by the helicopter. They did escape, but a few hours later they were caught and arrested yet again. Claudio da Silva was a Brazilian prisoner, but one day he tried to escape using a disguise. He put on a mask and women's clothing and tried to walk out of the prison. In 2016, El Chapo escaped from prison. He was the leader of the Sinaloa cartel. A massive tunnel was dug underneath his cell. The tunnel had lights, vents, and even a motorbike. He was able to simply ride away. In 1995, someone broke the wall of the Copenhagen prison with a bulldozer. This caused 12 inmates to escape. Surprisingly, the inmates did this because they wanted to go to a football game. Animals who were arrested. This is Lorenzo the parrot. He was trained to be a lookout for a Colombian criminal gang. Every time he saw the police, he would cry out, "Run, the police are going to get you." This led to many failed raids by police, but eventually one worked and Lorenzo was arrested. This elephant from India is named Ramachandran. One day it went mad and trampled 3 people, taking their lives. The elephant was arrested and detained by police, and its owner had to pay a $30,000 fine. In Nepal, this goat was arrested. It kept eating flowers in the city of Janakpur.